and the occupational therapist's job is to teach Mel how to go about everyday life while protecting her back, you know? Because the laundry was piling up. Exactly. That's right. You didn't say it, but you thought it, and I appreciate that. It's very modern of you. The occupational therapist goes through this whole thing. After about 15 minutes, she's done, and she goes, I like to tell couples that it's okay if you want me to discuss intimacy. And my wife, she didn't say a word. She just gave me this look. I know this look. It's, if you let her discuss intimacy, I will murder you while you sleep. No, we don't need to discuss intimacy. We're married. We don't do that anymore. That was more of the courting process, or at least, please don't do this. Please stop. She's like, okay. Well, I'll just give you my spiel. Oh, you're gonna do it anyway. That's awesome. Thanks for that. She said, I like to tell people that physical touch can often be replaced by a tender look. I'm gonna say it again because I wrote it down when I heard it. Specifically to share it with you guys. She said, physical touch can be replaced by tender looks. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you even, like, what does that mean? Like what? Like Mel and I, we'd be home, you know, a month later, and she's recovering fantastically, and we're sharing a bottle of wine. It's a Saturday night, listening to some music, and I was like, hey, Mel, you wanna go upstairs? And she's like, no. I'm like, why? Come on, let's just go to the bedroom, you know, whatever. And she's like, no. And then she just flashes me a tender look, and I'm like, whoop, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Wow. I'm gonna go get a head start on next year's taxes because I feel very clear-headed about everything. Or maybe it's like 2 years later, I forgot about this whole thing, and I'm at a party over in the corner talking to some of my friends about something serious, and Mel, she just wants to mess with me, so she just gives me a tender look, and I'm like, oop. Guys, I'll be right back. This is awkward. Miami. We get down to Miami, and we go to this party. Guy Fieri's having a big party, and we go there, and we go in the front door, and the first thing we do is Guy just puts a shot in my hand, and boom, we're off to the races. And Mel reminds me, we have a tradition. The first morning, we go to Miami a lot, and the first morning we wake up in Miami, we go and have a Cuban breakfast. So she's like, don't forget about breakfast. I'm like, no, I'm good. She's like, great. So she's hanging with us, she's drinking, but she's pacing herself, and I'm doing laps around her. And look, I'm not gonna say that I drank too much, but I did wake up on the floor of the hotel bathroom, hugging the toilet at 10 in the morning with my wife standing above me with a cup of coffee. Can you be ready to go in 10 minutes? No. Can you bring people back from the dead in 10 minutes? So she made me an appointment at one of those hangover IV places. Now here's the thing. Hangovers are caused by dehydration. But you can drink as much water as you want, take as many electrolytes as your body can handle, but your body only absorbs 10% of it. That's it, 10%. But an IV bag filled with saline water and vitamins injected directly into your bloodstream, and your body absorbs 100% of it, all of it. So, an hour after I was saying my last rites on the bathroom floor of the Fontainebleau Hotel, I'm having shots, mojitos, and Cuban sandwiches in Little Havana. Yeah, fuck yeah. But I'll tell you, in traveling to all these countries, the most foreign country I've ever been to is Kentucky. So, we were going down there, we're shooting season 2 of 3 Sheets. And they said that Steve McKenna could join us for an episode. And I was so excited to have my best friend join me in an episode of my show and have people finally get to meet this guy, Steve, I've been talking about for the whole season. And I got to have a stunt drinker for all the bourbon that I knew would be consumed in this particular episode. We pick up Steve at the airport, and we drive 2 hours south to the town of Sherwood. Population 200. And we go to the Sherwood Inn. Everybody is there. The entire town is there. And they were so excited to have a TV show about their beautiful community. And so we get there. Everybody's dressed to the nines and looks amazing. And they have a bluegrass band that they brought in to play. And the bluegrass band has a full set of teeth between the whole band. Oh, no. Everything was really done really well. And I brought Steve to the bar, and I got us bourbon shots and whiskey and moonshine, real moonshine shots, and apple pie shots and mint juleps. And after an hour and a half, Mike, the director, comes up. He's like, hey, that was good, man. That was good. If you're good, I'm good. And I was like, you know what? I'm not. Because the name Steve McKenna, it means something to people. It's a name, it's also a verb. Steve McKenna, to be inebriated to the point where one loses control of one's actions. Examples include streaking, drunk dialing, sorry I hit on your mom last night. I was Steve McKenna. So I brought Steve back to the bar, and I got us more bourbon and more whiskey and more moonshine and more apple pie shots and more mint juleps. And in an effort to get Steve McKenna, I managed to get myself Steve McKenna. Cut to Steve and I standing out behind the bar. Now it's December. It's midnight, and it is mighty cold outside. Now, we're not naked, so don't let your imagination... You guys, come on. Because we're wearing socks. And I had made an announcement before I left the bar that we're going streaking. And the entire town is on this giant front porch, and they are just waiting for us to run by. And Steve and I, we're outside, and we're shivering, and it is now or never. And when, boom, we take off. Like two naked, unanatomically correct, chubby Ken dolls flopping through the cold Kentucky air. And we pass that front porch, they start to cheer. They love it. They're not laughing at us, they're laughing with us. They're having a great time. Big deal, we're naked. There's not one person in this entire room that looks good naked while running. Except maybe you. And I turn back to Steve. I'm like, dude, let's make another pass. He's like, I'm in. I am in. So we run around. We come around the side of the porch, and I hear some guy say to his friend, man, those ladies sure are in a hurry. So we didn't do any more running that night. Stupids. That's why Kentucky's stupid, because they're mean. We start to drink. To get the conversation going, as is my job, I tell these guys that I heard that it's a tradition when you open a bottle of vodka in Moscow, in Russia, with friends, that you finish it. And this young guy at the table, maybe he's 23 years old, he's like, this is a bullshit. This is a bullshit. I don't know where you're hearing this. Maybe you're watching too many American movies about Russia. No, we're not all wearing furry hats and doing the crazy dancings and then drinking bottle of vodka to empty. This is a bullshit, guy. This is a bullshit. I'm like, okay, you get the next shot because you're not being very funny. And then we sat around and we got to know each other. And we talked and we laughed and we had an amazing time until the bottle was empty, because it is a tradition. Big deal. It's okay. Traditions are great. Now, at this point, Christina, the producer, she comes around behind the table and she's like, hey, how do you feel about that? I'm like, that was great. She's like, yeah, I think we're wrapped. That was a great scene. I'm like, yeah, this is a great way to end the show. And I hear behind me, they opened another bottle of vodka. So, decision time. I can rest on the fact that, look, we just shot an amazing scene at the end of an incredible episode. I can wake up tomorrow with probably not the worst hangover I've ever had. Or I could embrace the fact that I am in Moscow in the dead of winter in this shithole communist tenement apartment with 4 drunk Russians well on their way to trouble, so I fucking stayed. So I stayed. Of course I did. Absolutely. So we start drinking from that second bottle, and that young guy, he's like, hey, I will get something. I'll be right back. Leaves the apartment, comes back 2 minutes later, kicks open the door, holding above his head a Kalashnikov, a machine gun. And he sees the look on my face like, oh, this is how it ends. He goes, guy, don't worry, this old Soviet gun. Here's the thing, though. The predecessor to the Kalashnikov was the AK-47, invented in 1947. The Kalashnikov, also known as the AK-74, was invented in 1974. This gun is younger than me, but he's wielding it like a fucking Civil War musket. Or a club that cavemen would use to hunt women. Or the promise of fame that Kevin Spacey would use to hunt young men. What is he, from here or something? Jesus. Fuck that guy. And he hands it to me. He forces his gun into my hand. And look, I'm not used to handling heavy artillery. I'm not from Orange County, so I don't... I'm not from Orange County in any state, by the way, just to clarify that. And so I'm like, okay, great, I'm holding this. Is it loaded? He goes, no, of course not loaded. I'm not going to hand you a loaded machine gun, okay? I'm like, oh, God, yeah, sorry. I'm fucking idiot. So I can pull the trigger? He's like, well, maybe don't pull triggers. Sometimes bullet gets stuck. What the fuck are you talking about? Maybe? So you handed me what is possibly a loaded machine gun as we're sitting here getting loaded on our second bottle of vodka. And this old guy sitting next to me leans in and goes, a Kalashnikov-like woman. She probably not mad at you, but why ask to find out? Steve McKenna and I went to college together, but we were never roommates for reasons that'll become apparent in this story. We went to Cortland College. Thanks. And Cortland, New York, is just south of Syracuse and north of pretty much everything else. So in our junior year, we had the biggest snowstorm in the history of the city. We woke up to 4.5 feet of snow on the ground, still snowing heavily. School was closed, roads were closed, bars were open, #college. But it was a while ago, we would have said #college. And so at 11 o'clock in the morning, Steve calls me up. He's like, hey, I'll meet you at the bar. Fine, let's do it. So put on my snow pants and my ski jacket and my gloves and my hat and trudge my way through 4.5 feet of snow for a mile to get to the bar to find this bar is busier than I've ever seen it. Everyone is there. All the students are there. All the professors are there. To put it in perspective, that wall over there, that's school, okay? This wall of barrels, that's the bar. Okay? That's the actual distance between these two things. School? No. It is dangerous. People get hurt. There's not even a way to get to it. There's too much snow. Shut it down for the rest of the week. No, close it. Close it down. That's it. What's that? The bar's open? Yeah, let's get a pint. Come on. That is it. Where there's a will, there's a way. So I get into the bar, and it is so packed. But Steve McKenna was the first person at the bar, so he's got pole position. He's bellied up to the bar, and he's not moving his spot. He's got 6 or 7 people deep behind him trying to get drinks. And so we're passing ahead money, and Steve is passing back pitchers of beer. That's it. They're so busy, they're just doing pitchers of beer. And we were having an amazing time. Until at some point, because of the cold, the sewage line under the bar breaks. And this horrible smell wafts through the bar. It was disgusting. And so we all flood out onto the street. There's no cars, so we start making snowmen and having a big old snowball fight. It was amazing. And we look inside at some point, and there is Steve McKenna, still at the bar, like a soldier at his post. He didn't leave. So we went back in, and we continued to drink until the bar closed about 17 hours later. And the next day was also a snow day. So we go to a different bar, and a bunch of us are in a booth, and we're talking about how much fun this is and how much fun the day before was, and Steve's just sitting there with his arm across, slouching down the booth, all grumpy. And we're like, Steve, what's wrong with you, man? Why are you not having fun? He's like, well, yesterday you guys said you left the bar because of the smell, and I didn't think the smell was that bad, and that's why I didn't leave. Steve, why are you defending smell? I don't understand what's happening here. Well, I'll tell you, okay? I'll tell you why. It's because I farted, and it got away from me, and I my pants, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all, but you guys made a big deal out of it. And in fact, it's called a shart, and the reason it's called a shart is because everyone's done it, and they needed to give it a name so they could tell people what they've done. But you guys made me feel like you've never done it, and I wanted to leave the bar. I wanted to leave school and never wanted to see you guys ever again. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. So what happened was, when we went outside for our snowball fight, Steve ran to the bathroom of this state school dive bar. There's no door on the stall. There's no toilet paper. So Steve takes his underwear off, throws it in the garbage. Then he takes off his t-shirt, rinses it in the sink, cleans himself out. I wasn't there. This is a dramatization of the events that occurred. Cleaned himself out, threw that away. Then he pulled back on his corduroys and his Cosby sweater. It's okay, it was the 90s. It might be okay again now too. I don't know, the news is conflicting. But he goes back to the bar and he continues to drink. And that's how Steve got the nickname Number 2. So people ask me all the time, they say, Zane, what's your favorite hangover cure? You've had so many different hangover cures all over the world. And I said, that's it. The IV, that's the only cure, the only thing to wipe it out completely. I've had remedies, things that mitigate the symptoms, lessen the severity of the hangover. Like, for example, I was in Mexico, and to get rid of the hangover, I had spicy food, which is the only time I had to run to the bathroom to do a number 3. It's the one that burns. It's either 3 or 7. I'm not really sure of the numbers of them. When I was in Denmark, they told me to jump into the fjord. Now it's February. It is 10 degrees out. The fjord, the bay is 20 degrees. And they said, get naked and jump in. And I did it. I got naked, jumped in the fjord, still had my hangover, couldn't find my genitals. So that's not good for people. That's not helpful. When I went to Peru, on the way to Machu Picchu, there's a place called the Sacred Valley. And there I sat down with a medicine woman, a shaman. And in this ceremony, she took a long, thin stick. She burned the end of a stick, and she gave me 5 cigarette burns on my arm and put frog poison inside those wounds. So after a few moments, my body absorbed this poison, and my body thought that I had just ingested a poisoned frog. So I became violently ill, and I threw up uncontrollably for an hour and a half, which made me realize that my hangover wasn't that bad. One time I got a splinter. I said to my friend Nick, I'm like, hey, can you help me with this splinter? He's like, sure, kick me in the balls. Splinter, no longer my biggest problem. That's kind of how that works. Here's one, this is the easy one. You could try this one. When I was in Greece, they told me to take a raw onion, cut it in half, and take half of that onion and put it directly under your genitals to cure your hangover. And all that did was like an hour later was give my wife bad breath. So, I'm gonna keep trying that one. I'll make that one stick. In Jamaica, the hangover remedy was herbal tea. And if you're like, oh yeah, my grandmother used to drink herbal tea, it's different. It's different, unless your grandmother was also your fucking weed dealer, because this was marijuana. This is ganja tea. Yeah, we go down, we're in the town in the grill. We go to a place called Ted's Tea Shack, which is also Ted's house. And we go inside, and on his stove, he's got a pot with a heaping amount of marijuana in it, a giant amount of marijuana in it, simmering in a small amount of water. And when it's done steeping, he brings it outside, and he strains it into 2 teacups through an old t-shirt. And he filled his cup a little bit, and he filled my cup all the way to the top. And then he drank his, and then I drank mine. And then Ted was like, oh man, you drank the whole thing. What? Yeah. Ted, yeah, you poured that for you and you drank that, and then you poured this for me and I drank that. Why, I wasn't supposed to? No, man. I poured a little bit for me, because this is all I can handle, and I poured a lot for you to share with everybody. That's a lot of tea, man. Ted, what's gonna happen to me? Man, I don't know. But it could be trouble. I think it's gonna feel like you got hit by a freight train. Ted, what? Whoa, man. Hit by a freight train? Why don't you use an analogy that you can relate to? Why don't you tell me it'll feel like I got hit by a bobsled? 15 minutes later, and it hit me. But it wasn't what he made it out to be. I just got hit with this wave of relaxation. I just felt like this warmth wash over me. I felt good. I felt great. I felt present. I felt alert. I felt relaxed. I was like, Ted, man, why'd you scare me? If you had more of this tea, I would drink it right now. I like the way that this feels. He's like, man, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's not gonna hit you for another 45 minutes, man. So, 45 minutes later, I lost the use of my legs. That's true. Yeah. I was stuck in my chair. I had to be carried by the crew to the crew van. This is how they walk. Don't make fun of them. Put in the van, double seat belted in so I didn't fall over on the turns. Driven to the hotel. We got to the hotel, be carried to the hotel, through the hotel lobby. And brought to my room and laid down on my bed, which is where they left me. And I'm laying there, staring up at the ceiling, and when I could finally move my legs again, I was too afraid to get out of bed because the towel hanging on the doorknob looked like a baby ghost. Edibles may cause paranoia. Like, look, I smoked pot before. I never felt anything like this. Maybe Ted gave me something stronger. Maybe he gave me something different. Maybe he's on his way to my hotel room right now to harvest my organs. When he gets here, should I tell him that my liver is probably not an organ that he wants from me? Take my spleen, Ted. I haven't even used it. I've been able to experience so many cultures, and I've drank in 71 countries. 71. 72 if you count the Vatican, but there I just had a little sip of wine and the cutest little piece of toast. And then I ate it, and I was still hungry. Right. So I go back in the line and get back up to the front, and the guy told me that you can't have seconds, which I told him I didn't think was very Christian. Let's see, coolest place I've ever drank was Tanzania, Africa. Tanzanians are here. Thank you for coming. It's never happened. I got to sit down and drink with the chief of the Maasai tribe. Now, I sat down and drank with this guy. This guy has 30 wives, 30 beautiful, beautiful ladies at his disposal 24/7 to remind him that he's an idiot. Because marriage, hey, listen, if you're with your wife, don't laugh at that. It's not, that wasn't for you. Most expensive drink I ever had was in Scotland. There I was drinking with the master distiller at Glenfiddich. And we're working our way up the Scotch ladder. We had the 12-year-old, the 15, the 25-year-old Scotch. And he's like, you know what? Hold on 1 second, I'll be right back. And he goes back into the office, goes into the safe, and pulls out a $10,000 bottle of 50-year-old Scotch. And he brings it out in this beautiful bottle, and he poured it. It looked amazing, and it smelled fantastic. And we drank it, and it tasted like Scotch. I don't know what you guys want there. Oh, it tasted like Jesus peeing in my mouth. But old Jesus, not baby. You know what? I'm not helping out this situation. But you know, look, did it taste better? I don't know. It tasted different. But I think we have this fascination with the older it is, the more time it spends in a barrel, the better it is, the more expensive it is. I don't know. I don't know if that's just marketing or if it's actually true. Like I had the 25-year-old, it was good. The 50-year-old, it was good. It just tasted a little bit older than the 25-year-old. It's like my buddy's like, Zane, if you like my sister, you got to meet my grandmother because she's an old lady, and she has trouble with the stairs, and she sleeps in the cellar, and she smells like old wood. And I think you'd like her. That's what I'm just saying.